back again for more calling all commenters. So a few weeks ago, a video went up on the Fact Fiend channel that was about the Snyderverse. It was a focus video, and I think it was called "The Snyderverse Fans Have Ruined the Snyderverse," something like that.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously we got a lot of comments sort of giving us praise for having mentioned this, and then the occasional comment from somebody who didn't agree with us. And I thought, seeing as this series is about looking at comments, rather than doing the thing that we are doing most weeks, which is going through the comment, like asking people for a suggestion and then going through those, we would actually go through some actual comments, including one of the ones that came through on the Patreon, because we did say to people that we would respond to them. Mm-hmm. And 2 people took us up on that offer, but one of them said, "You're wrong," and then put, "I don't actually think you're wrong." So I brought Lucas in because Lucas and I were in the video together, and I thought it'll be good for him and I to go through some of these comments and maybe talk about them in a like a more level and nuanced kind of way, so that we can give these people who have said these things an opportunity to have their voices heard before we tell them they're wrong. So, Lucas, I'm sending you through the first comment now.
Okay. Just start like, Superman is a Christ-like figure. Always has been, always will be.
What do you think of that?
I mean, as we mentioned in the video, that is literally incorrect. There's like the creators of Superman themselves have said that that's not the case. Obviously, plenty of people, just like Snyder, have used him in like, you know, Christ-like metaphorical symbolism and stuff like that. Like, you know, people have done it, but that's not what it was intended to be.
I mean, people have done it with almost everyone by this point. It's not uncommon for people to take from that, because it's a good way to evoke emotion in a lot of people, because they see that and they immediately connect it with this Messiah.
Yeah.
But that's not who Superman was meant to be. Superman maybe have been portrayed as a Christ-like figure, but it's not that they always have been, and it's not they never will be. Superman was created to be more like Moses. And you can just see that on the surface level. Mm-hmm. Like, his mother put him in a capsule, a basket, and sent him away to be looked after by another mother. And then this person rose up to try and defend the people against, you know, threats. Like, and then leads the people to a better future. Like, he is Moses. That's the story they're telling with Superman.
No. He can fly, therefore he is Christ.
He poses, T-poses, therefore he is Christ. I think before we carry on, I just want to stress, like, I've rewatched Man of Steel in preparation for this video.
Okay.
And honestly, I like Man of Steel. I don't think it's a bad film. I think that they definitely make a lot of mistakes in the way they portray Superman. Mm-hmm. And obviously we are going to go through some of these, because there's quite a few comments linking to the Park Kent. Right, and there's a few comments linking to the truck driver incident that we mentioned in the in the previous video. But Man of Steel is not by no means the worst of that series, and in fact, there are a lot of points in it that I do really enjoy.
Yeah, and I think what I've always said about Snyder and Snyder's movies is that he's very good at shooting action, like action set pieces. He's got like cool looking imagery and a good sense of action. I then don't like him because I don't like aspects of his movies when it comes to the more narrative elements and the amount of slow motion he uses. But generally speaking, he's very good at like making cool looking action, and the Superman, like, in that movie had such a good sense of like power and speed. I don't agree that you should use it to like punch someone through buildings in the middle of Metropolis. That's a different argument. Yeah, I think there's definitely good elements of those movies that are enjoyable.
It's like, I don't like the aesthetic of Krypton, but I know that's a personal thing. Because I quite like the idea that Superman was associated with crystals from the original Reeve ones, and I assume that's comic inspiration as well.
I think it's very, like, crystal-like in a lot of the comic books and stuff as well, yeah.
Like, Snyder went with... I say Snyder, we use Snyder as a net term. I don't know how much of the visual creative decisions that he made were him. Like, I actually don't know what percentage of those decisions are made by the director and what are made by, like, maybe the art director or the producers or something. But we use Snyder as a net term because it's his film, and ultimately he's the one that puts it out there.
That's the thing, is, like, at the end of the day, like, it's a team that makes these movies, so not everything comes down to just Snyder. But at the end of the day, it's him trying to have one vision to see through to the end, and, like, he has a team of people helping him create his vision.
Yeah.
And that's why we kind of term it all as Snyder.
Yeah. But I wasn't a huge fan of that aesthetic, that sort of biological engineering kind of look with the the penis rockets and stuff. But I don't have a problem with it. I just wasn't a big fan of it. Like I can objectively say that is a me thing and not a everything thing. Because I know a lot of people did like that.
I didn't mind it apart from the penis rockets, but then I do think I still prefer, like, yeah, as you say, like the imagery from the Reeves movies. But it's not to say that I can only like one or the other. I kind of like both.
Yeah. Right, let's go back to the comments. I'm going to send you the next one. Since we're talking about Zack Snyder specifically, this one is quite relevant.
Okay. So far, your only real criticism has been that stupid people like Zack Snyder's films, which is actually a criticism of the fans and not the movies, which was kind of the point of the entire fucking Fact Fiend video.
Yeah, so the whole point we were making was that we thought that the fans of the series, their refusal to accept the films weren't as good as they thought they were, was the reason why everybody else has now started to dislike that universe. That was our point. It's not all fans as well. Like, I would consider myself a fan of some of those films. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like Batman vs Superman. I think that one completely ruined the premise. There were miscastings, there were story choices, too much, like, terrible. But I like Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked it. It was fine.
But I still go back and watch, like, the Batman vs Superman fight in Batman vs Superman.
Do you bleed?
Just that bit where, like, watching, like, the armored Batman, like, be prepared and have, like, a set up plan for, like, how to defeat this man, and like, Clark obviously not wanting to beat the shit out of Batman, knowing he could tear him in half but doesn't want to. And I think I just like that because I fucking love The Dark Knight Returns, which is the inspiration for that movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, we're not hating specifically on the films. We have problems with them, but Carl said multiple times he thought they were a solid 6 or 7 out of 10. We have had way worse cinema, like Green Lantern.
They are okay / good movies depending on which movie you're talking about. But like the issue we've got is that people have attached their entire personalities to the idea that like these 7 out of 10 movies are perfect.
Yeah. Those diehard fans misunderstand the criticisms that a lot of people lay on those films because they can't accept that there are things wrong with those films. And we're going to talk a bit more about that when we get to the stuff about Pa Kent later on, because obviously Pa Kent, I think, is one of the massive problems with Snyder's version of Superman and his misunderstanding of that character. And I have even more to say about that now after having rewatched the film. But anyway, next comment.
Okay, you've said that his films aren't deep and that his stupid fans think they're deep because they're way too stupid to know what deep is. How are fans supposed to address that? And I guess the answer is to, like, A, watch more movies, but also B, like, look at more movie criticisms and analyses, like, just dip your toe in the water a bit more.
There's a difference between being a Snyder fan and being one of the fans we're talking about.
Yes.
So if you're getting offended that we're saying that the Snyder fans are stupid because they think it's deep, that implies that you think it's deep, which means you don't understand why it's not. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the point there. It's like, obviously we're doing a bit of a disservice here by lumping all Snyder fans and all fans of those films in together, when if we were being clear, we're not talking about every fan. We're talking about this very specific subset of fans who are really dedicated to it.
That vocal minority that was screaming for the Snyder Cut, that always tell people that those movies are perfection, like, that they're, again, super deep. Like, if you think those movies are deep, again, go and try and, like, educate yourself a little bit by going and looking at other people talking about films in a literate way, and why something that, why the Snyder movies aren't deep, but maybe as well go and look at, like, analysis of things that are pegged as, like, deeper movies.
Yeah. Even if you come out of that still thinking that the Snyder films are deep in that, at least you've educated yourself a bit more. At least you've learned a bit more generally. It's never a problem to learn a bit more about the kind of topics you enjoy. So,
like, media literacy is, like, quite hard to tell people how to learn, but it's a thing that can be learned. And like, again, I think a lot of it is just, yeah, like, have a look at people's reviews of other movies that you like, and maybe don't just scroll to the bottom and read a score. Read the review. Like, actually listen to people's critiques and analysis of different media.
Yeah, and I would say as well, so I'd suggest reading negative reviews of things you do like, because it helps you to get another perspective on something that you might be oblivious to. You might read a review about the Man of Steel or about Batman vs Superman. You might read that and see, oh, that's why these people don't like it. Like, I like this bit, but this person has picked out this part and said it doesn't work, and that's why it doesn't work.
And like, you know, it's real easy to watch a 2-minute what did I think on this thing of like, yeah, it was a good thing, 8 out of 10. But, you know, it's not hard to go on YouTube, and I know that, like, Carl talks about, is it Red Letter Media, is it?
Red Letter Media, yeah.
Quite a lot of, like, longer, big breakdown videos on different movie series and franchises and stuff, and, like, those are the kind of videos you probably want to look at if that's what your aim is to, like, try and increase your media literacy. Of, like, as you say, look at other people discussing why a movie that you like is bad.
But also be aware of the bias that is going to be there with anyone who is also reviewing these. Like, I watch a lot of reviews of things on YouTube, and it helps very early on to figure out the sort of just the stance, whether it be emotionally involved or political, etc. Like, whatever this person leans towards is going to affect the way they review content. And so you also have to be aware of that. Yeah,
just like, for example, when we're making videos about the Snyder Cut or the Snyder fans, is when, you know, us on the channel have been so frustrated by that fan base that we're inherently going in with a negative bias.
Yeah.
So
I like these things less because of the fans.
Yeah. And
so,
like,
yeah.
You've got to understand that we're coming at this from like a frustrated angle of like listening to these fans tell us that these movies are incredible for years on end, and like constantly I've rewatched some of these movies because I've been told that they're really good. I got convinced to buy the fucking extended Batman vs Superman because it fixed the movie. It just added more shit in.
Anyway, next comment. Similar vein.
Okay, yeah, similar. I'm tired of being attacked for liking Zack Snyder's films, and I really wish people who don't could do so without all the personal attacks. Okay,
I wish so people who don't could do so.
They would. There's just like very little punctuation in here. That was all just one sentence. Snyderverse fans are passionate. That shouldn't anger anyone. And it's like, yeah, that's great, but leave your passion to yourself. Like, stop pushing it on everyone else.
Yeah, being passionate isn't an excuse for bombarding people with something that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I said it a little bit in the Fact Fiend video, but I think I may have trimmed some of it down for time. Like I did have a bit of a rant.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm so frustrated with this is because I went on Twitter and I customized my timelines for certain things. And one of those things was like, I think I put movies in, I think I maybe put comic book movies in, and my timeline becomes filled with tweets about the Snyderverse. So much so that I've had to start muting accounts that mention it, and I've gone in and actively blocked the hashtag, because it was all I saw every day, and it was people whose opinions, like, you can like the film, but they were putting just things that were objectively wrong in, about how it's better than all of these other films, or how this is, like, how Zack Snyder would have made, like, $2 billion if he'd made Aquaman or something. It's like, these people are just not correct.
No.
And it angered me. So, yeah, that's why I have such a hatred for it at the moment.
And that's the thing is, like, I don't have a hatred for Snyder fans. I don't. Like, I have a hatred for, again, we're constantly trying to clarify that we dislike that really vocal minority of those really passionate Snyder fans. Like, love those movies. Just be quiet about it. Like, please, dear God, you got the film you wanted. Stop trying to push, like, the fucking Aya cut. Stop trying to get Zack Snyder's Snyderverse brought back or anything. Just leave it be and go and enjoy those fucking movies. That's all we want.
So this next comment actually leads into a point I want to make here, which is about people saying that we don't understand the point of the Snyderverse movement. So if you just read this one out.
Okay. I mean, every time I get one of these comments come up, I go to be like, well, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinions. Like, I'll read it like a regular person would. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinions, but in all fairness, Snyder's DCEU films were butchered by a studio that wanted $1 billion out of the gate. I find it ironic that nothing they've made to replace Snyder has achieved that goal, unless you count Aquaman, which was shit, which was in production while Snyder was still directing.
So there's two parts to this that I want to say, one for Snyder and one against. So the one for Snyder is, it is true, the studio interference has messed with a lot of films, and the Snyder version of Justice League that came out is objectively better than the other one, because it is one coherent vision all the way through.
Okay,
like
so
we said in the it's a bit long.
That's the thing, is like, I have heard enough people say that Zack Snyder's Snyderverse was better, but it's still not a great movie, and it's 4 and a bit hours long and not worth your time, that I didn't actually watch it. So we'll always clarify that, like, I didn't want to watch a slightly better version of that movie that lasted 4 hours long, because I'm just inherently not very interested in that universe anymore. Like, it was already a fucking dead horse for me at that point, and I almost bought it, like rented it and watched it out of curiosity, but like enough people just told me to not bother. I haven't.
I would recommend it if it weren't for the length.
That's what pulls me.
I know people say, oh, it's split into chapters so you can watch it in chapters. It's like, yeah, but some of them are 10 minutes long and some of them are like 2 hours. So
oh right, okay.
No, I think what happened was that because he had a platform and because he had all of this footage, normally you have an editor who cuts it down to a reasonable length. He had the freedom to not do that. And this is another thing where people are like, that's the movie we would have got in the cinemas. No, it's not. It would have been at least an hour and a half less time.
Fucker.
3 hours max.
No fucker signing off on a 4-hour theatrical cut. Yeah. No one. And like, he had carte blanche because it was going direct to streaming services.
Yeah, it's not fucking Ben-Hur. It's it's Justice League, and it's also, in terms of like the story structure, it's not hugely different from the original, like the Justice League one from 2017. But no, it is better. It's definitely a better film.
I've not heard anyone say it was worse than Joss Whedon's cut, but you know, we live in a society that doesn't want 4-hour theatre-long cuts of movies. Like, just saying.
Yeah, but the negative thing I'll say, and I'm quite happy for somebody to provide some kind of source to prove this is wrong, but from what I can tell, what happened was Zack Snyder got his vision for Man of Steel and for Batman vs Superman, and those films are also a mess. Yes. Batman vs Superman grossed more, like I think that's the second highest grossing DC EU film behind Aquaman.
Right.
But I still think it's an absolute mess. Because they tried to cram like 6 storylines into one film.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of that is Snyder and how much of that is Warner Bros. Because like we'll never properly 100% know, but it was clear out the gate that the moment like they announced Justice League the movie, they had Batman vs Superman not be just about Batman vs Superman. It had to be about also Wonder Woman and also
what's he called? Not Darkseid, the other one.
I
want to say Armageddon,
Deathstroke.
But it's not.
No.
Yeah, so they had Death of Superman, they had the origin of the Justice League, they had Wonder Woman, they had Batman vs Superman. They brought in Lex Luthor. Like it should have been Batman versus Superman with Lex Luthor pulling the strings. Mm-hmm. Why
Doomsday,
is the finale Doomsday? There we go. Why is the finale of a film called Batman versus Superman not the fight with Batman versus Superman? Why is that the bit before the final fight? Like you spent like an hour and a half building up to this big fight between the two of them, and then it's over super quick, and then they work together. Apart
from like the weird decision with like the catalyst for them being buddy being like the whole Martha thing. That's obviously a stupid thing, but I do think that like there's an okay movie in there if you just focus on the Batman versus Superman element, and like obviously a better than okay movie because the movie like it was still a 5-6 out of 10 as we said, because like that one specifically is a bit worse. It doesn't quite get to the 7 out of 10, but like it's a mess of a movie that wants too many plot points, and I think if he was allowed to just focus on the Batman versus the Superman as the one sole element, I think we might have gotten a much better movie. But I don't know if like Snyder wanted to throw in all the extra stuff. We don't really know.
I think we would have got a fantastic Batman versus Superman if we did all that. We had it very specifically about just Batman versus Superman. But if somebody else had directed Man of Steel. Because imagine a different director setting up a Superman who was like positive and amazing, but accidentally caused a lot of problems through his first outing and was remorseful for that. Mm-hmm. And then you have Snyder direct the darker version, where Superman is still the same character we've seen established. He's this heroic character that wants the best for everyone. But other people don't see it that way. And at the head of that movement is Batman, who, obviously a darker Batman than we've seen before, thinks that Superman is a problem and realizes that he's the only one who might have the facilities and the power to deal with that. And then you let Snyder do his whole dark, slow-mo, faded vision. But after we've already had the Superman film that people actually wanted. Yeah,
like, so you're saying basically like have the Christopher Reeves kind of movie set up.
Yeah, like imagine Christopher Reeves Superman in a Snyder universe.
Yeah, as you say, like got pushed to his limits with Zod, accidentally, blew up half of Metropolis, and then Batman. You get like the Batman perspective in the second movie where it's like, this is this alien monster that we know nothing about, that we are incapable of stopping, and that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
And at any point, these threats could just blow up our world.
You could it's so like, the big problem is that they wanted to have an Avengers out the gate.
Yeah.
They weren't willing to, what they should have done is they should have done the exact same thing that Marvel did, which is start with should have done a Cyborg movie.
Wait, you mean like introducing half of the Justice League through CCTV footage wasn't a good idea?
No, doing a film about a lesser known character. Like, we've seen too much Batman. We've seen Superman before in the past as well. Mm-hmm. Pick a lesser known character. Martian Manhunter could have been a good one for a film, or Cyborg would have been.
Well, like, that's the thing is, like, again, I haven't watched the Snyder Cut, but obviously there was a lot of controversy around how much Joss Whedon cut out Cyborg's story, and it was meant to be way more revolved around him in Snyder's version, which I presume ends up being true. But like,
Cyborg is a huge part of the Snyder Cut version, and his story actually makes sense in that version.
And that's the weird thing, though, is like he set up Cyborg for 3 minutes and then made him the main character of the Avengers movie, like their version of the Avengers. It's really weird that we got 2 Iron Man movies, a Thor movie, a Captain America movie, and like, okay, yeah, we don't really get as much time with Hawkeye or Black Widow, but they're not the main cast. Like, they're the ancillary cast to the other 4 in the Avengers.
See, I would argue that I don't really have a problem with them focusing on Cyborg a lot in the Justice League one, simply because we haven't established him yet. Mm-hmm. So having the film be about him means that the Justice League film then becomes a Cyborg film with these other characters we know appearing in it as his allies. But then in that case, Wonder Woman and Flash should have also been before the film. Or Flash could have been after, because we know a lot about the Flash from the Grant Gustin show.
Aquaman as well.
Aquaman as well, yeah. Like, I think, Aquaman specifically, they changed his whole character to make him more badass.
Yes.
I don't know if that was in the comics first, or if it was. I know there are comic versions of him where he looks like this badass guy with the.
Yeah, but I don't think he's ever had Jason Momoa levels of swag, to be honest. Like,
oh my god, that Aquaman is amazing.
I mean, I despise that movie. Well, what I watched of that movie.
The thing is, I want to go back and watch it, but there is a very specific reason that I don't want to now.
Right.
Let's not say it outright, but yeah.
But no, I went to watch that movie with my girlfriend, and we both got to like about 40 minutes in, and went, like, I just paused and was like, don't know about you, but like, I'm not enjoying this at all. And it's like, oh, thank God. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, this has been fucking boring, and it's not even been like, oh, but it's set up for an interesting story. It's been like really shit cheesy lines that don't fit the rest of the tone. It's been boring politics that I don't care about, and like a bunch of just filler fluff shit, and also an actress that we don't talk about, and like it's just, dear God, like I just turned it off.
See, I did like Aquaman, but I also understand that different people can like different things. Mm-hmm. And that Lucas's opinion is just as valid as mine. And if Lucas and I were to have a discussion about whether or not the film is objectively good, then we would look at reviews of professional film critics, box office reports and income and stuff, and accuracy to comics and things like that.
Yeah.
There are ways to analyze things outside of your own opinions, and one of us would have to concede that the other one was right.
And I'm aware,
or at least,
I'm in the minority of saying that movie is so bad that I couldn't finish it. But I have heard mixed reviews on that movie for sure. I'm just definitely on the extreme end of it, but it's there is a discussion to be had there, and I don't want any of this bullshit in these comments of but Aquaman gets good after an hour. It's like, I fell for that shit with Final Fantasy 13 and put 40 hours in, and it didn't get any better, guys.
Right, I've got one more comment of the broad comments bit, so I'm going to send you that one now.
Well, I just want to cap off that comment with just I do think that there's definitely, regardless of how much that all of those movies are Zack Snyder's vision or not, there's definitely money grubbing studio hands in those DCU movies. Get us an Avengers level movie right away, as you said, Brad.
Yeah.
You could feel it from second fucking one. So what if Zack changed the fundamental personality of Superman? Writers have been doing that since the 1940s. What he did not change, however, that many people seem to not accept, is that this Superman still tries his best to save humanity. And I'd argue that the thousands of people that are dead in Metropolis might disagree. Could you not have done the Goku tech of let's go to a desert somewhere? Well, I mean more the Piccolo tech. I'm not I don't...
So this is one of the points that I was looking at specifically when I went and rewatched Man of Steel, because I wanted to see whether we were being unfair to Superman in that film.
Okay.
In that he could have redirected the fight. So the first big fight happens in Smallville. And It happens in Smallville because Superman, out of anger, grabs Zod, who is attacking his mum, and basically smashes him across the landscape into Smallville. Right? So, first of all, that is Superman putting the fight into harm's way.
Yes.
But I'm letting him off for that one because he did it out of passion and anger.
Yeah, and that was just get the fuck off my mum, and in a blind rage might have not realised where he'd hit this guy to.
Yeah, and he's clearly angry in that because he basically starts mocking Zod for not being able to breathe the atmosphere. And then Zod gets dragged away, and the fight suddenly turns into these two Kryptonian enemies are walking towards him, and he starts saying to people, get inside, it's not safe, right? And that's the extent, for the most part, of him helping people. He tells people to get out of safety, and if someone looks like they're going to get attacked, he will block the attack. But what I noted about that scene is that they were clearly coming for him.
I was going to say he's the target, so he could just move.
And also, he can fly, and in this scene, they can't.
Yeah, because this is where they take their masks off and realise they have the powers, right? Yeah,
so he could have just flown away and they would have followed him. Even if you went back to the cornfield, so that he was still within range of both Smallville and his mum. He kept that fight in that town. There's the bit where he gets thrown into, I think it's the IHOP or something.
Right, yeah.
And one of the Kryptonians says to him, oh, your morality is a weakness. The fact that you care about people. But then at no point in the film do they seem to exploit that. They could have just gone back to his mum's house and kidnapped her.
I was going to say, because I realise why he doesn't want to hit them back to, or fly back to his mum, because then they might exploit that weakness. But again, just fly away in a different direction.
Yeah, and then
if they do fly or figure out how to fly or just run back or whatever to his mum, guess what? He's got super hearing, can tell that they're doing that, and can fly back and save his mum.
Yeah, and a similar thing happens towards the end. So he can't do anything about the location of the world, what's it called? The world generator thing. Is it called the world? What do they call it?
I mean, you're the one who just watched the movie.
Yeah, I've forgotten the name of it. The terraforming equipment.
Yes,
he can't do anything about where they've placed that. So the destruction that happens at the start of that part in Metropolis, he can't do anything about because they deploy it before he can get to it. And they come up with a plan to stop it, and that's fine. But once it's destroyed, and then Zod starts attacking him, that entire fight could have happened elsewhere because Zod is after him. Again, he has the power there to redirect that fight. And the Superman that we want, that we would have... the Superman from the comics, the Superman from most of the animated shows, would have taken into account the safety of other people during this fight. And even if this is a young Superman who's just getting used to his powers, just getting used to fighting and being a hero, they never seem to show him being really remorseful for this damage that gets done. Like, they sort of hint at it a bit in Batman vs Superman. And I haven't watched the extended cut or like the whole thing for a while, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they never really tackle the fact that a lot of people died in that film. And a lot of people died because of him. Like, Superman is the reason that the Kryptonians come to Earth.
Yeah.
He's the one who activates the ship and sets off the beacon. And he's the one who sort of, like, he makes things, like, escalates things in a way.
It's like, I've more recently watched BVS, and it was the extended version. Because it's the version that I bought.
Yeah.
Don't do it, folks. But, yeah, basically, it's Batman's perspective in Metropolis, like, you know, showing how much of a monster that Superman and Zod looked to everybody else, and how much destruction they caused between them. Then it's Superman being stressed about everything that's going on. He never really, like, there's never a significant amount of time, or like even a significant scene, where Superman sits down and expresses remorse for what he did. Like a lot of it is just, oh, I'm now worried about the current situation. The current situation is bad. It's like, okay, you've got to assume that he feels bad, but it never explicitly gets shown.
I feel like there's a lot of assumptions on the audience for that we know who Superman is. Like, I feel like that happens quite a lot, is that Snyder is essentially saying, oh, you know Superman's going to be remorseful, or you'll know he wants to save people.
You know he's a good guy.
We all know, yeah. Rather than actually putting it in the film, which is, it's a bit ironic, really, that Snyder is a director who will shove stuff in your face instead of being subtle, but then isn't obvious about facts like that.
We'll get a Granny's peach tea scene, but we won't get a scene where, like, Superman's like, oh, fuck, I murdered people.
Like, the epitome of it is, I made a joke about it in the Fact Fiend video, is when he makes out with Lois in the burning crater of the city that just got destroyed. And, like, I know he's pleased to see her, but I would imagine the Superman that is, like, the Superman is what he's supposed to be, would be looking around him in horror and almost in tears at the destruction as to what's happened, as to how many people must have been killed in this horrendous, attack.
And I think it could have been solved by something as simple as, like, you know, Superman trying to fly away or trying to knock Zod away, and Zod retaliating by either, you know, grabbing Superman and throwing him back into the city, or Zod then going like, well, fuck you, I'm gonna go after civilians, and starts, like, you know, lasering buildings himself without Superman being there. It could have been something to be like, no, Zod is going to force this fight into Metropolis.
Yeah, like, they made a point earlier about how Superman's morality was his weakness. So Zod could have used civilians. The way, like, the bit at the end before he snaps the neck, Zod is threatening to cut some kids and their family in half.
And that's why he murders Zod, because he's like, well, apparently I can't stick my hand in front of his eyes, so I've got to snap his neck.
Or just redirect his eyes in a different way.
No, he had to snap the neck.
Or anything. Yeah, or just fly upwards. But, like, there's also an argument to be made that Superman had to make that decision. Like, we have a lot of heroes in films who have to kill the villain, or at least have to battle with, like, I think the most recently I rewatched The Last Airbender. Avatar The Last Airbender, the actual great series, not the shit film. And in that, Aang has to make a very difficult decision as to whether or not he's going to kill Fire King Ozai.
Right.
Because, like, everyone, all of the past avatars are saying, you need to make the difficult decision. Avatar Roku says, I wish I'd done it myself back in the day. Like, Avatar Kyoshi says, oh, I had to make a difficult decision to kill somebody. And the battle there is whether or not this character that we've watched will be able to take that step. And what will they do if they can't take that step? And they don't really give Superman the opportunity to have that battle inside himself, because we're never shown that he has an objection to killing.
No, like,
he saves people, but he never expresses that he doesn't want to kill anyone.
There's the bus scene where it's like, did you?
But that's saving people.
Yeah,
this isn't.
So like, that's what I mean. Is like, he's shown that he wants to save people, but he's not ever shown that he's against killing people.
Yeah.
Which that is a true point. And yeah, that's the thing is like we're not mad that Zack Snyder changed like the personality of Superman, but it's almost like he did it half-heartedly and like didn't commit, and then also, there are, because he still wants Superman to be a good person, like there are things that he does, like not moving the fights away, that don't come across as being for the best of humanity and being like a beacon of hope that Superman literally is in that movie, because they say your family crest is the symbol of hope, and they point that out, and then he still doesn't act like that.
So Lucas and I are going to go into 2 specific scenes here, but this recording is lasting longer than I thought it was going to. So what I'm going to say is Lucas and I are going to carry on now, but I'm going to split this into 2 episodes.
Okay, yeah.
So the first part that we've just recorded, this will be part 1, and we're talking about the universe as a whole. And then if you join us for the next part, we're going to talk specifically about the Park Kent scene and the scene with the truck driver. 2 scenes in Man of Steel, which personally I think are like very representative of the reasons why Man of Steel and the Superman version that was shown in Man of Steel doesn't fit what I think needs to be Superman's, like Superman, the ideal he strives for, and what is like, these things are fundamentally against the actual character, I think.
And that part won't be too long, because it's the hottest day of all time, and I'm sweating balls.
Yeah, we'll rattle through it.
Yeah, my fan is not doing the best job right now. Oh.